Hi, I'm Sally and I've hiked 15 different routes, hut to hut or inn to inn, in 9 different countries, and this is what I bring. So first, a backpack. This is my 28-liter Gregory pack. This one is 33 liters, and I have used both of these for long distance hikes from inn to inn or hut to hut, and they are both totally sufficient, and at the end of the video I will show you how I can fit everything I talk about into this 28-liter pack. I have a video comparing these two, so head over to my channel to have a look at that. Second most important thing is a good pair of hiking boots or shoes. They are Salomon Speed Cross 6s and they have really great grip. I have a review of these on my channel along with almost everything else that I talk about in this video, so go have a look at that or wait for the playlist to come up at the end of this video. A lot of people are wearing trail runners these days instead of traditional hiking boots. I am on board with that trend. I love how light and comfortable these are, and statistically, apparently you're not any more likely to roll your ankle in these than a pair of hiking boots. But ultimately, wear whatever makes you happy. Going somewhere warm, I usually bring a pair of good sandals as well. These are Teva Turas. I've worn them to hike hundreds of kilometers in Europe. I really like walking in sandals because they're nice and cool, and I find I just hate wearing socks in hot weather, but I know that's not for everyone. If you're going somewhere really warm, you could even only bring sandals and not even bother bringing shoes, but make sure you break these in because they are harder to break in than a pair of shoes, I have found. The last pair of footwear I always bring is a pair of these cheap lightweight flip-flops. So these are great to put on at the end of a long day of hiking for communal showers because I don't really trust communal showers. And if you are doing hut-to-hut hiking in continental Europe, you will need a pair of hut slippers. So you are not allowed to wear your muddy shoes in those huts. You'll need either a pair of slides or down booties, or simple flip-flops will work that you can put on to wear in the huts. The next most important thing is a set of hiking sticks, as they call them in Europe, or hiking poles here in North America. If you have never hiked with these before, don't be skeptical. This is a game changer. You'll be so much more comfortable hiking day after day. And if you don't feel like carrying them, you can always attach them to your bag. So I do recommend getting collapsible ones for ease of transport and in case you do want to put them on the side of your bag. I almost always just hang on to these. I just find I can walk so much further day after day using hiking poles. On to my wardrobe. I prefer wearing merino because you don't have to wash it as often. It has some sort of magical power to absorb your stink, which means you only have to wash it every few days, which is really nice. It's also warm even when it's wet. This is a merino blend, so it's nice for warmer temperatures, and there are special merino blends that are meant for hot temperatures, so if you're going somewhere warm, I'd look into that. Anywhere cooler, I like to bring a long sleeve one because this is perfect for wearing under other layers like a rain jacket, and it protects my arms from the sun as well. And I always look for a crew neck one to minimize the amount of sunscreen that I need. If you're on a budget, then there's no reason why you can't just wear a regular athletic t-shirt, whatever you have lying around. If it is polyester, you might just have to wash it every night, which is not a big deal as long as you bring one to wear and one to wash. And there are nice materials nowadays to help keep you cool if you're going somewhere really hot. I do recommend a t-shirt over a tank top because the straps on your backpack might be a bit uncomfortable if they're rubbing against your bare skin or against some kind of narrow tank top strap. Plus, this just gives you so much more sun protection so that you're not having to carry as much sunscreen. So no matter where I'm hiking or the climate, I always bring one fleece. So if I'm going somewhere cooler where I think I might want a hood, then I had brought this grid fleece in the past. A place like Switzerland, hiking in the mountains, this is great. Alternatively, something like this that's a little bit less sort of athletic looking is kind of nice. It's still thin, it's still very lightweight, but it looks a little bit classier. The absence of a hood also means this packs down smaller and lighter. They also make these ultralight special types of fleeces now, and again, I do have a video on this. They are very strange looking, so I don't think I would bring this on a European hut-to-hut hike, I like to look just a tiny bit classier, but it is very, very lightweight. So kind of a perfect backup layer if you just want to bring something with you just in case and keep it super light. So if I'm going hiking in the mountains or anywhere where it's going to get a bit cooler, then I always bring a down jacket for that third layer. Most of the time, a thin down jacket like this is totally sufficient because my other layers together with this will keep me toasty warm. But if I'm going somewhere where I know it's going to be really cold, like hiking the Annapurna Circuit in Nepal, it can be really cold on those passes. It can also be really cold in the accommodation at night. So a more serious puffer like this, 800 power, would be suitable. But in a lot of cases, this would just be overkill, I think. And the final layer for my upper body is a rain jacket. So this is a Frog's Togs rain jacket, and it's only $20, and it's so lightweight. So if it's just going to rain occasionally, or I want to really focus on bringing the lightest things possible, this is a great option. This is a regular rain jacket. It's got 3 layers, and it's appropriate for when I want some extra insulation, or I know I'm going to be wearing it most of the time because it's quite bulky. It's not the perfect thing for carrying around, but if you're wearing it all the time, then it's more suitable. Any kind of really windy climate or where I am having to bushwhack, I'd want to bring this one because this one has very little insulation value and is quite delicate. Onto the legs. So these are the hiking pants I have worn across probably thousands of kilometers of hut and Indian hiking, as well as backpacking, bikepacking, everything. They are ripstop nylon pants. I believe they were originally marketed as climbing pants, but they are fantastic for hiking, water resistant, very hard to damage. They have 2 hip pockets. I wish they had one more zipper pocket where I could put things like my phone. And they don't have any fancy hardware here, which is nice because if your hip belt goes over top of your fly, you're going to find any kind of fancy hardware there is going to be digging right into you. So I would just pay attention to that when you're trying on pants. Something I don't own but I wish I had was a pair of those hiking pants where you can zip off the legs to make shorts out of them, because as dorky as they look, that is such a brilliant idea and so practical. It's just a matter of time before I buy them. These haven't worn out though, so I gotta keep wearing them. So I do bring a pair of shorts normally as well, unless I'm pretty sure that it's going to be really cold the whole time. And these are super lightweight, easy to scrunch up. Just basic synthetic material, no fly or anything to get in the way of my hip belt. And handily, they have a really nice zippered pocket in the back where I can put some essentials in there. If I'm going somewhere really cold, then I will bring 1 or 2 pairs of merino long johns. One for sleeping, one for daytime use. But it has to be somewhere that's pretty chilly to make this worthwhile. If I'm going somewhere where I think it's going to rain a lot and or it's going to be quite cold, then I bring these heavy duty rain pants. I love these rain pants, but they are quite heavy and bulky, so I don't bring them unless I think I'm going to be wearing them a lot of the time. So of course you're going to need undies. I just bring 2 or 3 pairs of undies, a couple of sports bras, do a little bit of laundry every single night and just hang it up to dry around my bed. So those are the only clothes that I bring for daytime use. I wash them as best as I can as I go, but basically you just wear the same 1 or 2 things day after day, and that's totally normal. I used to bring more clothes, but I've finally learned after so many trips that you really don't need it. Just buy merino and wash it as you need to. So don't forget to bring pajamas, either maybe some long johns or a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, depending on whether you run hot or cold at night, and depending on the temperature of the accommodation. You don't want to forget pajamas, especially if it's shared accommodation, not optional. If I'm doing a route where I might want to go swimming along the way, then a swimsuit or some combination of extra clothes that I can wear. Socks, of course, very important. I typically bring 2 or 3 pairs. If I want to wear a pair at night, then I bring 3, and those are my night socks, and I do not wear them at any other time. I always bring totally different types of pairs of socks, because if I'm starting to get a bit uncomfortable with one of them, I can switch into a different pair, and that often actually solves the problem. I usually bring a pair of these Ninja toe socks because they are fantastic for preventing blisters, and I can also wear them with my flip-flops. If it's cooler out, I do wear warm wool socks, which stay warm even when they're wet, and they're totally worth the investment. They do also make cooler wool-based socks. The advantage of them is that they might get a bit less smelly, and again, they'll still be a little bit warm even if they're wet. They do make these double layer socks, which I find are fantastic for preventing blisters, but they are not ideal for multi-day hikes where you're going to be wearing the same pair of socks over and over again, because I find that they take forever to dry because of the multiple layers, and they get tremendously smelly and disgusting over several days. So as much as I like them for day hikes, I actually would not recommend them for multi-day hikes, or at least not these thicker version. A pair of mitts or gloves, and I do really recommend these if you're going anywhere mountainous or cooler or windy. I have gotten terrible windburn on my hands, even when I have brought these along. So don't neglect your hands. And don't forget that you'll be hiking with your poles. You're probably not going to be able to put your hands in your pocket to keep them warm. If I'm going somewhere cooler, I always bring this merino buff, which I really like because I can wear it as a toque or as a neck warmer. Alternatively, you could bring a little merino toque like this, super lightweight. I made this jaunty scarf out of a thrift store find, and I like how it looks, and it also keeps me cool because I can dip it in water to keep my neck cool, and it keeps the sun off my neck. So I usually bring this when I'm going somewhere warm. I always bring a hat to keep the sun off my face and the rain. If it's pouring rain, this keeps the rain from running right down my face. Sometimes I use a bucket hat if I'm going somewhere really exposed and sunny, but absolutely some kind of brimmed hat is a must-have. Finally, a pair of sunglasses. So that's everything I wear. I like to use some kind of bag to organize my clothes, maybe one for socks and undies, one for the rest of my clothes. I prefer these dollar store mesh bags over a dry bag because, first of all, these aren't actually waterproof unless they're really thick. They are a bit heavy and awkward shaped. Whereas these I can shove in between all of the other things in my bag really easily because they're a bit bigger. I can use this as a pillow. It's really lightweight, and I will even sometimes put my wet laundry in here and then hang it off my bag if I have some damp clothes that I need to carry with me. Okay, on to these sundry objects. So first of all, very important is this sheet sack. If you are staying in alpine huts or in pilgrim accommodation, you're going to want to make sure to check whether you need one of these. So the bedding will be there, but you need one of these. It's required usually. And so that's really important that you have it with you. So how it works is it's just like a sleeping bag, but it's just made out of a sheet. And there's a pocket where your pillow goes in at the top. Mine has never fit back in this case that it came in, but it does pack up pretty small and it's pretty lightweight. There is different materials that you can choose. I chose this one that has some silk in it because apparently that repels bed bugs, but you can also get one that's made for some extra insulation or for hot sleepers or whatever. One handy item I often bring is this little bag that I can use to pick up groceries along the way. I can use it to bring my stuff into the showers. It's got a million uses and it packs up very small and it's super lightweight. Vessels. So this is a bit of a luxury item. I really like having a hot cup of tea or coffee or even some soup partway through the day if I'm hiking somewhere in a colder climate. This is the water bottle I always bring, and if I need more water than this, I can either put it in my life straw if I have it, or I can just buy a plastic water bottle from a store and carry it around with me. Depending where I'm going, I might bring some kind of water purification device. So this is a life straw. This is a Be-Free. For a lot of hikes or walks, you're not going to need either of these because you'll be able to fill up at your hotel or your hostel or your hut before you set out for the day, and there might be places you can fill up en route, but there are certain routes that you won't be able to do that. If your hike is more of a wilderness hike, then again, you might want to bring this so that you can fill up using streams along the way. Even if you're just hiking somewhere really hot, like the Italian countryside, there are fountains in villages, and having something like this can be really handy to be able to fill up and stay really hydrated along the way if it's going to be really hot. So to keep all my clothes and my other things dry, I use these special garbage bags that are meant for garbage compactors, and it's pretty indestructible. And I just use it either as a pack liner or I put all my clothes in here before I cram it into my bag. This is better than a pack cover because a pack cover doesn't actually totally protect your things, and it tends to collect a whole bunch of water in the bottom, I've noticed. whenever I've used them. If it's really raining, as soon as I take my pack off, all of this water comes flooding out of the back cover and all over the floor of my accommodation. So I think I'm going to give up on pack covers altogether and start just relying on these garbage bags instead. So of course you're going to need toiletries. I just put mine in a plastic bag. Bring as little as possible, but don't overlook deodorant or antiperspirant because you will be sharing spaces with other people. So be polite. Make sure you bring earplugs if you're going to be staying somewhere with shared accommodation. Mountain huts especially, you're going to be sleeping potentially right next to people who are snoring. I always bring some of these little soap strips, just in case my accommodation has run out of soap or for whatever reason I don't have access to it. I can also use these to wash my clothes. So personally, I think washing clothes right in a communal sink is pretty disgusting. So instead what I do is I bring this little backcountry mixing bowl and I pop it right into the sink or on the counter, put a bit of water in there, put my items of clothing in one at a time, give them a good wash with whatever soap I can find, shampoo, hand soap, doesn't matter. I don't bring dedicated laundry detergent anymore. It's totally unnecessary. Give your clothes a good rinse after and then hang it up somewhere around my bed or in my room. And then I'm going to go the next day. So I love this thing. Packs up to basically nothing, weighs basically nothing. I use it for travel too. It's the perfect device. This is my first aid kit. It does not have very much traditional first aid stuff in it. It does have some antibiotic cream. I think that's a really useful thing to have to prevent infections from developing. It does have a whole bunch of band-aids because especially near the beginning of a walk, I tend to sometimes really burn through them. It has whatever types of medication I think might be useful along the way. For instance, a handful of cold medication, ibuprofen, some sleeping pills, some stomach pills. To me, this is much more useful than the traditional first aid kit. If I'm going for more than about a week or 10 days, then I do bring toenail clippers because not being able to clip your toenails can cause some real problems when you're hiking. I really like keeping my hands clean, especially before I eat, and I like using these wipes more than using the gel, and they can also be used in the event of a bathroom emergency. Depending where you're going, there might be showers but no towels. So bringing a little ShamWow or some kind of travel towel or even a sponge will be worthwhile. I always bring a headlamp. It's good to have while you're hiking just for safety in case you get caught out after dark, but also good for shared accommodation. If I'm going somewhere buggy, then bug spray and a mesh bug hat. Sunscreen, of course, is important in the smallest size that you can get away with. And very important, some sunscreen chapstick. Especially if you're at high elevation, make sure you've got these things. Some Kleenex in case you get a runny nose, and some extra Ziploc bags. These are a VIP piece of equipment. You're going to be so happy that you have these when you need them. My wallet is always just a Ziploc bag. I always bring all of my credit cards and debit cards because you never know when one of them is going to be rejected for some reason in a foreign country. And I always bring some local currency and make sure to research where I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to need a larger amount of cash to pay for accommodation or anything else. Just make sure you don't get caught in the middle of nowhere and unable to pay for your accommodation because, you know, maybe they don't have an internet connection or something. Do your research first. I like to wear a watch so I can just keep track of my pace and so that I can adjust it for different time zones and rely on it. I also really like being able to check the time in the middle of the night when I'm in a shared accommodation situation and I might have my phone plugged in across the room or my phone might be turned off to conserve battery. This has a backlight so that I can check the time in the middle of the night without disturbing everyone around me. It's also got an alarm for if I have to turn off my phone overnight. I can set it right here and then I can turn it off really quickly before it wakes up everybody else. This is my emergency beacon and I bring it if I'm going into the backcountry, into areas that I think I might not be encountering anyone for hours at a time. Your phone might be equipped with satellite communication for those situations, but also consider if your phone might die or you might lose it or it might get damaged. This provides a backup. There are different types of these. This is a bigger, heavier one. There's InReach, there's Garmin's, there's different types. The other piece of emergency gear I typically bring is a space blanket, just in case I'm caught out overnight or I get hurt and I'm worried about going to shock. Do your own research about what kind of emergency gear you want to bring with you. It's going to depend on the context and whether you're alone. The final piece that I bring is a whistle that's attached to my backpack. Of course, I bring my phone and I make sure to install any of the apps I might need beforehand, including mapping apps. And I download offline maps of everywhere I'm going in at least 2 different apps. You can use this as a credit card or a debit card as well. And I do not bring a separate camera, I just use my phone camera. Make sure you also take photos of your important documents, email them to yourself, things like your passport, download your plane tickets, download your train tickets. Just make sure you have everything on here so that you can refer to it. One more thing I always bring is a small printout of my itinerary, and that says where I'm going to be staying each night, the number of kilometers I plan to walk each day, and any other important reminders. And finally, I always record the number for the local emergency services in case I need to phone for a rescue. In addition, I sometimes bring a map or guidebook, or if I want to keep it on the lighter side, I'll sometimes just take photos of the pages in my guidebook before I leave home. I love to bring an e-reader because the battery lasts way longer than my phone battery does. And I really like being able to read every night because after hiking all day, you might not have a lot of energy to do other things. If I'm going somewhere where I can charge my phone every night, then I like to bring headphones so that I can listen to music or podcasts as I walk, because I often do these trips alone. This is a battery bank. Depending where I'm going and whether I can charge regularly, I might bring a battery bank like this or even 2. And of course, don't forget the cords you need and make sure they are the right cords. I've brought the wrong cords multiple times. Very annoying. And a converter for whatever country you are going to. If you're going to be staying in hostels, then a lock for the lockers is a good idea, but see if you can find a lightweight one. I'm a snacker and I've noticed that granola bars are sort of a North American phenomenon. Sometimes they're tricky to find elsewhere, so I like to bring a whole bunch with me. You might want to consider bringing some coffee or tea, depending whether it's offered in your accommodation. If you're staying in alpine huts and you're a member, you might be entitled to free hot water, which means you can bring your own things to have an evening cup of tea. If I'm going somewhere hot, some electrolyte tablets or powder. I like to bring a spork so that I can eat things out of my little thermos mug and so that I can stop and buy a salad or a yogurt along the way, and I'm equipped with my own utensil. So here it is. This is the 28-liter pack with everything I just talked about either inside or tucked into one of these outer pockets. So I've got my sandals and all of my different drinking vessels on the outer pockets. It fits totally fine. You could hike basically anywhere you wanted with this for any length of time, whether that's weeks, months. So other than that slight bit of variation that I talked about, that's my kit list for every trip, regardless of the climate or the style of accommodation, whether it be pilgrim accommodation, hostels, mountain huts, B&Bs, hotels. I bring the same set of layers every time with those additions for colder climates, and I bring the same set of other items regardless. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope I'll see you out there on the trail. Bye now.